Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call to order Planning Commission meeting for December the 4th, 2024. Please call roll.
Commissioner Woodard,
Here.
Commissioner Michaud,
Here.
Commissioner Williams,
Here.
Commissioner Taylor,
Here.
Commissioner Shook,
Here.
Commissioner Stodchill,
Here.
Commissioner Grabowski,
Here.
Chairperson Taylor, we have a quorum.
Thank you very much, Ms. Brown. Next, we will have, and I apologize, the Planning Commission creed and the approval of the agenda by Vice Chairman. Okay. You usually have it handy. Thank you, sir.
The Newport News Planning Commission is mandated by state law, and its members are appointed by City Council. Section 15.2, TAC 2210 of the Code of Virginia states, in part, that every locality shall create a planning commission in order to promote the orderly development of the locality and its environment. The statutory purpose is to improve the public health, safety, convenience, and welfare of the citizens, and to plan the future development of the communities. In serving this statutory purpose, the Commission invites the comments at the public hearing of its interested citizens of matters before it and welcomes your presence. Chairperson Taylor, I move that we adopt the agenda before us.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and properly seconded the agenda be accepted. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we'll move forward the agenda with the agenda being accepted. Next, we have the invocation by Commissioner Mercier.
All right, let's pray. Father, during this time of year, we're thankful for our many blessings, and then we also lift up those in our city who might be struggling because of the scarcity of resources, but also for those that the holidays represent hardship because of grieving. It's the first holiday with a lost loved one, and so we lift them up to you today as well. And as always, we just ask that you would help us to act wisely in service of this great city. In your name, amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. Next, we have the Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Williams.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next on the agenda, we have the minutes. Everyone had a copy and received a copy of our last minutes. Any questions? Any corrections? Any changes? Okay, I'll leave it open to accept the minutes as presented. Open for motion.
I move that we accept the minutes as presented.
Second.
I can move them properly second. The minutes be accepted. Thank you so very much. The next item on the agenda, prior to going into the actual agenda, is the presentation of resolution to Dr. Wilbert Maxwell, Jr. So.
Is he here?
Yes, he's here.
Where?
Over there.
Oh, I didn't see him. I'm used to seeing him there.
Dr. Maxwell, can you beat me at the podium, sir?
Looks here.
Present this to you. And I'm trying to read it from over here. Good afternoon again, sir. Resolution of appreciation. Whereas Dr. Maxwell was appointed to the Newport News Planning Commission back in January 16, 2016. He served on the Planning Commission continuously for 2 full terms until January the 15th, 2024. And he served as chaplain from January 2018 to January 2024. And during his tenure on the City Planning Commission, he served on the One City, One Future 2040 Comprehensive Plan Oversight Committee. And during his tenure, he met a lot of people, made a lot of friends. His tenure on the City Planning Commission recommended approval, and the City Council adopted the Joint Base Land Use Study, the Marshall Ridley Choice Neighborhood Transformation Plan, the One City, One Future 2040 Comprehensive Plan, the Denby Ward Area Plan, and the Lee Hall Area Plan. And whereas Dr. Willard Maxwell Jr. served astutely and diligently as a member of the City Planning Commission with keen sensitivity, passion, and understanding of both the public interest and private property rights, and the perceptions of insights brought to the position by Dr. Willard Maxwell Jr. were invaluable in serving the many complex decisions facing the City of Newport News. Now therefore be it resolved by the Newport News City Planning Commission that it expresses sincere and grateful appreciation to Dr. Willard Maxwell Jr. for his able, tireless efforts as a member of the Newport News Planning Commission. It acknowledges the importance of Dr. Willard Maxwell Jr. and the work the City Planning Commission and the many contributions to its activities in the Commission. A copy of this resolution will be presented to Dr. Maxwell as evidence of our appreciation and afforded him the Newport News Planning Commission. And this is signed by all the planning commissioners and myself and staff. Thank you so very much, Dr. Maxwell. Okay, I'm gonna give him the mic first. I figure I'd give him the mic first, and we might be here all day.
We'll get a picture and then you can say a few words. There you go. That way I can get the rest of the planning commission. Okay, thank you.
I was going to say anything. Well, I didn't know I was going to say anything. But anyway, thank you all so much. Thank you, Ms. McAllister. Thank you, everybody on the board. It was an honor to serve with you all, and it was just an honor to be able to serve my city. And again, this is going to look real nice on the wall. Thank you so much. And I'm going to let you all have your meeting. All right, see you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so very much, and thank you all for allowing the time to do that. It was well-deserved, and I'm glad I was able to do that for him. The next item on the agenda is the City Planning Commission public hearing for November 2024 is the conditional use permit, CU 2024, TAC 0010. It's Chose Holding LLC owners, Autobell Car Wash LLC applicant. This will be presented by Saul Garcia.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. So we have application CU 2024-0010 by CAH Holdings LLC, who is the owner. Autobell Car Wash LLC are the applicants. The request before you is for a conditional use permit to modify the hours of operation set forth in ordinance number 3372-85 for the operation of a car wash. Okay. So the subject property is located at 13698 Warwick Boulevard and contains 0.91 acres.
So I didn't touch anything when I was up there.
Me neither.
Okay, good.
Up and down.
Yeah, it's moving here.
Maybe it has to be rebooted in the back.
Okay, so north of the property are the Horse Run Creek condominiums on property zone R8 high-density multiple family dwelling. South is a city pump station and a vacant commercial structure on property zone C1 retail commercial. And east is a private road and a vacant land on property zone C1 retail commercial. Finally, west is the Economy 7 Inn Motel on property zone C1 retail commercial. The One City, One Future 2040 Comprehensive Plan Land Use Map identifies community commercial uses for the parcel. The property has been zoned C1 retail commercial since the citywide comprehensive rezoning became effective on August 1st, 1997. On September 30th, 1985, City Council approved conditional use permit CU 85113 for the construction and operation of a car wash with conditions set forth in Ordinance Number 3375-85. The facility has been continuously in operation since it was developed. A conditional use permit is required for the operation of a car wash in the C1 retail commercial district. While a conditional use permit was approved in 1985 and it has been in use since then, the applicant wishes to modify the conditions in that approval, which brings us today here. On October 23, 2024, City Council voted to approve the removal of required on-site parking spaces. However, accessible parking is required by federal law. The Engineering Department Transportation Division notes that there is one accessible off-street parking space on the conceptual site plan that must comply with the van accessible parking space standards of an 8-foot wide stripe area and 8-foot parking area. Other city departments had no objections to this request. The applicant is proposing to expand the hours of operation and make minor modifications to the operation of the car wash. Existing site features, such as the principal structure, sign, and existing vegetation, are to remain. The fence along the northern property line will be maintained. The limited green area on the side will be maintained in a vegetated state with additional low-level landscaping added along the Palomino Drive frontage and around the sign area along Warwick Boulevard. Vacuums are now located at the southwest corner of the property near Warwick Boulevard, away from the residential development to the north. Currently, existing dumpster located in the northwest corner of the site is not screened. The applicant proposes to screen the vacuum producers as well as existing dumpster from view with a 6-foot tall white vinyl fence. The previously approved conditional use permit restricted the hours of operation to 8:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. in the winter months and 8:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. in the summer months. The applicant requests the new hours of operation to be 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily. In conclusion, the proposed car wash is consistent with the One City, One Future 2040 Comprehensive Plan land use designation of community commercial. The property has been developed and operated as a car wash for almost 40 years. Conditions preserving the existing on-site trees with the addition of low-level shrubs were feasible. Screening of the dumpster and vacuum producers and making minor modifications to the site will enhance the overall appearance of the property. The revised hours of operation and minor site modifications will have no additional impact on the adjacent properties. Hence, it is recommended that Planning Commission recommends to City Council approval of conditional use permit CU 2024-0010 for the operation of the car wash at 13698 Warwick Boulevard with 21 conditions that include: a revised site plan shall be submitted for review and approval by the Director of Planning that includes an on-site ADA van accessible parking space. A revised landscape plan shall be submitted for review and approval, supplementing the existing landscaping along the perimeter of the property. The existing fence along the northern property line shall be maintained. The dumpster and vacuums shall be screened with a 6-foot vinyl fence. If the existing sign is ever replaced, the new sign shall be a monument-style sign no taller than 8 feet, measured from the highest point of the sign structure to the top of the curve, and shall not exceed 50 square feet of sign area. All 21 conditions are detailed in the staff report and will be part of the ordinance approved by council. Are there any questions?
One quick question. The minor conditions that we talked about, are those we're to assume that those are the ones that you're talking with the fencing around the additional fencing around the dumpster and the vacuum area, those are the minor changes that they're talking about making to the existing site?
Those are the additional conditions, yes.
Those are the additional conditions, but what are the minor changes that they're proposing? Are those
So
it?
the changes are the schedule,
And
The hours
also
of
the
operation.
entry, the hours of operation and the entry and exit points, they're modifying slightly based on transportation engineering's request. So the site plan that's in your package, that I would,
You're still coming off of work, though.
correct. Everything,
Yeah, they have
the
to
entry and exit is the same, it's just how you come in and out of the site that will change slightly. You won't be able to exit out of the one, it'll all be a one-way circulation.
Okay, because that's my question, because as a patron and living in that area, it gets very congested at that corner when people
Yes.
are trying to make it into there, and I couldn't see what those changes look like, and I may have missed it in my packet.
It's A4. It's that site plan that's included in your package. And essentially, the engineer is here, so you can specifically ask them, but essentially, currently, you can exit and enter off that first driveway entrance to the,
Correct, because they're detailing cars in the other exit.
right. So now you will only be able to enter, you won't be able to exit from there. All exiting will happen on the other driveway.
So you come in and loop around the building and out.
Correct.
yeah.
That's much better.
Yeah. Okay, I'll wait till the engineer gets to
Mr.
explain
Chair,
what it.
I just had a question.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Steph. Is this with the time change, and you may not be able to answer this, but is this consistent with the other car washes in the city? Is this just, because I see this is approved in 85, so
Right.
I'm just wondering, because that's an additional 3 hours, I was just wondering if that's something
Yeah,
that's.
we don't really regulate hours of operation
Yeah.
at this time, and that was just an old condition.
So why not just remove the whole time condition
We aren't
altogether?
conditioning the hours of operation. If you look at the conditions that are recommended, they're not, it's, no hours of operation are recommended.
This is being,
Okay.
I think this is being brought forth on behalf of the,
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm reading their narrative, not the.
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, I have
Reading the whole thing.
my question is there any other questions? I still have a question for the engineering.
Okay.
Thank you, Saul.
Thanks, all.
Thank you, sir.
So who from engineering wants to speak? Let me do this. Let me declare the public hearing open. And now it's open for whoever wants to speak on behalf.
just your presentation, so I should have given you mine. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. My name is Tim Trant, attorney with Kaufman and Knowles. Sorry, I'm not as tall as all. Offices at 11815 Fountain Way here in the city of Newport News. My privilege to be here on behalf of the applicant, Auto Bell Car Wash. With me here today, I'll introduce the folks, are Jeremy Yee, who is the engineer for the project with Kimley Horn. Also, Thomas Musoni, who's an executive, a real estate executive with the company, and then Jonathan, as well as a VP of real estate for the company. So we have representatives of Auto Bell as well as our engineering team here. I will endeavor to answer your questions, just be brief. I'll run through this slideshow real quick. This is just some pictures that I won't dwell on, but they're here if we need to come back to them if you have questions about the site, just some location shots. Just briefly, Mr. Gleiser's already mentioned that the reason for the change is because we wanted to make some changes to the hours of operations, wanted relief from that condition, and that's what brought us forward. The benefits, as you've heard, as I will emphasize, I think, are improved screening. We're getting some enhancements in the aesthetics and the operations of the site through having to go through this process. Relocation of the vacuums further away from the residential on the site, and screening of both vacuums and the dumpster location. And then, as we talk, better routing of the traffic into and out of the site. And then last but not least, which wasn't touched on, just a modernization of the conditions generally. They're much more extensive conditions about the operations of the site. Like, for example, the freestanding signage that we now enjoy, if we change that, it would have to comply with the modern signage condition for CUPs, which is ground-mounted, 50 square feet. So there's some overall benefits to the change that come with the expanded hours. So with that, I'll answer any questions that you have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I open it up. Any questions? I do not have a question for you, sir.
Yes, sir.
But, yes.
You said,
I was pointing at you. I was helping, yeah.
no, I want to talk to the engineer too and just ask a question about alternate entryway.
Same here. So back to you, Fred.
No, I was just trying to get your attention for Lamont.
Well, I think as far as you're concerned, sir, we're good with you.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Chair, I'll introduce Jeremy.
Good afternoon, Jeremy Yee with Kimmy Horn, address 4525 Main Street, Suite 1000, Virginia Beach. We are the civil engineer for this project. Mr. Taylor, let me help to answer your question. I don't know how to operate this yet, how to do this. If you can go to the site layout, is there any way they can, this one would be great.
Okay.
Is there any way that we can zoom in?
Yeah, I was going to say, can you zoom in?
I think we have it.
We all have copies of it.
I can describe to you, and kind of expanding on what Flora described just now. So you're looking at Warwick, right? You're traveling west directions.
Yes, sir.
As you can see right now, we have two entrances.
Yes, sir.
Right? The first entrance when you're traveling on Warwick used to be you can come in and you also can leave the property through that entrance.
Correct.
What we modify now is that entrance is only allowing the customer or vehicles to come into the property. And all the traffic that exiting the property have to use the entrance further north or west.
That is the proposed way, right?
That's a proposed way. So it's really improving the traffic circulation by limiting the east entrance for entering, the west entrance for exiting the property.
Okay. As a patron
Yes, sir.
of your establishment, so you can take this with a grain of salt, and the owner of a very large vehicle, are you planning to shift that to only being able to go out the opposite end of this? You're going to have a backlog. I'm potentially saying that now we're going to have a backlog of vehicles waiting to leave that one exit. And so my question was, why did you explore the usage of was it Palomino as a proposed entrance? Because what it is, when that coming to that location, and I'm not the only one that does it this way, makes a U-turn off Warwick to go west from traveling east, right? Make a U-turn to go back to the car wash. And it's a stack, it just stacks there. And people are coming off of Bland to turn on Warwick going west. It just stops. And so I'm saying, if there's any way, the thought was, why do you look at a pull-off that you can pull off of Warwick and enter from
I
Palomino?
think it's a private road, Mr. Chair.
You think it is?
It's a separate parcel.
But I understand, do we not explore the possibility of using that as an entrance?
I don't think we have. Go ahead. Yeah.
I may speak to that. Actually, that's an excellent point. And yes, we did explore that.
Okay.
As stated, it is a private drive. We reached out to the property owner on 2 separate occasions via certified mail. So we know he got it, but never to get a response.
Okay.
And I don't know what the difference is, whether they stacked on Palomino or they stacked on their own property.
Well, what they're stacked, when you make the U-turn off of Warwick to go back west, it's the entrance in, that first
Right.
entrance. And it goes across from the light, people turning right on
Right.
red, to cross Palomino right to your entrance.
Right, but I
And-
mean, they can pull in and stack, they have a whole, the length of the building they could stack.
Correct. That's what's happening, but you have
Right,
to get off,
but
you
I
have to
don't know
get
what
off
the
of Warwick.
difference is. The Palomino Drive is about the length of them stacking beside their building.
You have to drive. What I was doing is that what happens is, okay, you have people coming off of Warwick making a quick right on red, and they got a quick stop because I just hit my brakes to turn right
Right.
into the other place.
Right.
And it gets so close. It hasn't happened, but it gets so close to being I
It'd be
look up
closer
and you're
if it was
there.
Palomino. But that's
Palomino
just-
get me off the main drag. That's what I'm thinking. But it's just my suggestion. But you said you've already explored it, so that my question's answered. Thank you. Well, hold on. Same question, Commissioner. Any other questions for the engineer or anyone from?
I have a question. So when you used to be open till 5 o'clock in the evening or 6 o'clock in the evening, when you closed, then did you turn were all the street lights off? Were all the site lighting, did the site lighting go off? Or will now be on till 8 o'clock at night?
The lighting would remain on till the
8
close
o'clock.
of business, yes.
How
ma'am.
about before? Did the site lighting go off when it was, I mean, I
I
don't,
believe there would be some
No, the light stays
illumination.
on. I can tell you the light stays on. It's still on. Correct.
okay. Okay.
There's lights
So-
around the building, too.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No.
Any other comments? Okay, the matters, I would like to close the public hearing, and the matter is now before the commission.
Chairperson Taylor, I move that conditional use permit number CU TAC 2024 TAC 0010 be approved with conditions as recommended by staff.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and properly seconded. Any further opportunities to say anything, any questions, any more comments? Hearing none, seeing none, now call roll, please.
Commissioner Woodard,
4.
Commissioner Michaud,
4.
Commissioner Williams,
4.
Commissioner Shook,
4.
Commissioner Stodchill,
4.
Commissioner Grabowski,
4.
Commissioner Bowditch,
4.
Commissioner Taylor.
4.
Motion unanimous, 8-0.
Thank you very much. This matter will be heard before City Council on January 14th. Thank you all, guys, for coming down and talking to you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item we have on our agenda is Newport News, Virginia Housing Study.
This.
The presentation will be done by Isaac Long, Principal Urban Planners. I'm sorry, Urban Partners. Mr. Isaac is here?
He's here, but
Oh, she's setting him up.
setting it
Okay. So can someone, little conversation about where we coming from with this?
No, see, this one you get an intermission music.
I know, right? Either a commercial or into intermission one.
The old drive-through.
Yeah.
The old drive-through intermission with the little dancing candies.
No pressure, Ms. Brown. No pressure, Ms. Brown. You're good. You got it. I gotta watch my truck.
You should have set yourself on a point.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you very much for this opportunity to present. It's been our pleasure. Our firm, in conjunction with Stromberg, Garrigan Associates, a landscape architecture firm based in Norfolk, we've been working with the city of Newport News planning staff and others on this housing study. A very important topic for the city and things that are hot topics throughout the country. And so,
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Can I get you to state your name again?
Sure.
And the firm you're for? I'm sure I butchered your name up. So.
Oh, no. You did very well. My name is Isaac Kwan, and I'm with the firm called Urban Partners. We're based out of Philadelphia.
Okay.
We're a consultant company doing a variety of market analysis housing studies throughout the country.
Thank you, sir.
So we started this project in November of 2023 with the assistance of the planning staff and the city staff. We convened a diverse group of stakeholders consisting of city staff and stakeholders, members of city council, members of the planning commission as well as civic and real estate professionals that have helped guide our efforts. So it involved a variety of data analysis, stakeholder engagement. We did a housing survey as well as stakeholder interviews, but really centered around the notion of what is the housing situation right now and going forward. So this gives you a common understanding of the data and the market and the supply, and then a forecasting of growth juxtaposing against your current supply and see what kind of gaps there are. So with that, this is a presentation that we gave to City Council on October 8th. This is a condensed version of a very long report. So if you were able to read the 100 and whatever pages, congratulations to you all. It does take some endurance to read all that, but I think you'll find that the information there is a great resource for you to reference to. But what you have this morning, this afternoon, is a condensed version. We have a key findings, 4 groups of key findings from our analysis and our study, as well as 4 groups in which we're recommending some potential ideas for action, and this for the city to consider going forward. So the first key finding that we put together is the following. Newport News is not keeping pace with the share of the regional population growth. So as an older urban city, as we look upon the region, it is not uncommon for the suburban and rural communities to kind of overtake the percentage of growth, and that is certainly the case here. So it's lagging behind the rural and suburban peers in the region. So in 2010 to 2020, looking at the census population, the city grew by 3.1%, and however, it's projected to continue growing, however, at 6,000 residents by 2050. So it's lagging behind, but it's continuing to grow at a decent clip, at a 3%. So it's a good and bad, mixed analysis in terms of population growth. Between 2017 and 2021, we took a look at the migration of households. So households, families, and non-families that are moving in and out of Newport News, and we saw a net negative household migration. So more households are leaving the city than coming in. Moreover, those that are coming in have incomes that are about 12% lower than those that are leaving. So you get an idea of an exchange of wealthier families moving out of the city and relatively less affluent families moving into the city. Next key finding is that the city benefits from significant current and emerging opportunities for expanding in the housing market. What do we mean by that? So based on our forecast of the next 25 years, we estimate that about 21,000 units need to be built in the city, including a significant amount of new growth that is resulting of growth of new residents and new population, as well as the need to replace aging housing. So much of the city has housing that are old and they're vulnerable for for replacement. So they are at an age where they need to be replaced, either reinvested into the housing stock or replaced, demolished, and built new. So it's a natural kind of cycle of housing, and Newport News is poised to enter a period where a lot of that needs to happen. The other new opportunity or existing opportunity that we saw is that there is close to 100,000 civilian workers that currently work in the city. And attracting those workers, many of them, most of them actually, who don't live in the city, they just commute in, attracting those residents, they appear to us as a low-hanging fruit. So retaining them would be a basis in which housing growth could occur. The other significant, as we all know, is the military housing demand. So because of the military, the bases, the Navy, the shipbuilding, all these kind of military infrastructure bring a lot of military personnel and their families who need housing. So it's been a steady growth, and we've interviewed Fort Eustis and the Navy, shipyard, et cetera, and they are all experiencing the same hardships of housing or lack of housing. So kind of, attracting those communities, that community to live and work in the city is also a significant opportunity as well. And other economic development potential, including Jefferson Labs and other new businesses that are locating and building, planning to expand, they represent great opportunities to continue to build the housing market. Third key finding that we saw is we heard a lot about affordability, which is definitely the case. As we look closer to the housing market and housing performance, it became clearer to us that the affordability challenge likely stems more from low household incomes rather than abnormally high housing costs. What I mean by that is that national average of a median house sale in 23, I believe, was $420,000 or something like that. Extremely high compared to Newport News, about $260,000. So if you look at those metrics, yes, it is more affordable, but compared against the incomes, it's still too high. So in light of that, what are some things that we saw in these 4 bullet points? Is that, I think seemingly low affordable prices, comparatively speaking, the lower income residents and families, they still have a hard time. It's not attainable for them because $260,000 will not enable new home builders to build at that price. It's significantly higher. The cost of development is much higher, so it's difficult for them to make ends meet, which is why a lot of house production has slowed down in today's market. You're not alone in that, by the way. The other key point that we saw was the concentration of affordable housing. So 1 out of 4 rental units in the entire city were income restricted. They were either tax credit, public housing, HUD subsidized homes. So 1 out of 4 rental units has some kind of subsidy associated with that. And that adds up to more than 8,300 units. And also we also looked at the proportion of that compared to the regional share. So the city of Newport News is 13% of the region that we spoke about, but Newport News is absorbing 22% of the income-restricted supply. So if you look at other communities that are your peers in the region, their affordable housing stock is very low, much lower than their percentage of population, whereas Newport News seems to be kind of absorbing the region's greater share of the region's need for affordable housing. So the third bullet here is related to that. So we thought about does simply building more income-restricted rental housing does not solve the affordability issue. I think it can, but however, there's no bottom of that bucket. There's no amount of housing that you can build that will satisfy the demand. It's really a regional issue that you need to have a regional, perhaps statewide, nationwide housing policy to address affordability. And for a single municipality to be able to tackle that we think is too ambitious. And if anything, it'll further concentrate affordable housing in the region, in the city. Thereby, you're not serving your low-income residents, you are actually serving the region's affordable housing needs in the city. So that's a policy decision that the city should be weighing as you go forward. So we think, this goes into more of a kind of a policy stance, but we think a more balanced approach might be more appropriate. Building affordable housing, preserving it actually so that the 8,300 units do not significantly drop after the compliance period, but preserving it, but also kind of rounding out the spectrum of housing, so market rate of all the kinds of different types, and also boosting economic opportunities so that when we spoke about the attainability issue, that folks have an income and jobs that can sustain their ability to pay for high-quality housing. So I think that's a more well-rounded approach rather than just tackling the income-restricted supply and trying to build up your stock there. Fourth key finding is we also took a look at the development patterns and zoning and land use and some of the work that you all are doing here. We did recognize that the city is using flexible zoning, redevelopment opportunities to transform underutilized sites and smaller lots while preserving neighborhood character. So we do think that Newport News is doing a good job of offering a diverse housing option. So when we walked in here, more than a year ago, we noticed that Newport News is like at least three different cities kind of bunched up together. And sure enough, the housing stock also represents that as well. You have all kinds of housing. You have single family, you have townhomes, multifamily apartments. You have homes that were built on 25-foot lots. You have homes that are built in 1 acre or 2 acre lots. So you have a variety of housing, and to kind of preserve that character takes a nuanced approach based on different characters in different locations in the city. And we believe Newport News is attuned to that and is doing a good job. Innovating zoning districts like R9, R7. We did do a very brief kind of look at how, zoning and density and all of that kind of stuff, though this is a housing study, and saw that those districts do allow for mixed use, affordable housing while preserving character. So there's a balance that the city is trying to strike. However, we took a look at some of the older areas of town where homes that were built in the 1800s were in very narrow lots, and the alleyways that service them have been vacated a few decades ago, makes redevelopment very difficult. So when new developers come in, they want to build a new home. Of course, they're thinking about parking, they're thinking about a garage. When you cut into a lot that narrow for a curb cut, it begins to have curb cut every 5 feet as you're walking down the sidewalk. So that's kind of destroys the character of the street. Safety issues is a concern for kids. So it's tricky. And so I think we need to weigh the potential of trying to redevelop some of these lots against some of the objectives of neighborhood character as well. So it's a tricky thing that the city and the design community and the builder community should continue to work toward what are good models of some of this, because you're not the only ones that are trying to rebuild some of these neighborhoods. So there could be a lot of case studies that could be done, with potential model site plans that could be conveyed to the building community to allow for some good ideas to come forth. Lastly, last key finding bullet point is that throughout the country, throughout the Commonwealth, we're seeing shopping malls that have kind of outdated, large, big box retailers that have gone out of business. Kmart is a prime example, but there are many others. And these shopping structures, because of change of housing, are online spending patterns. Monday was Cyber Monday. So all these things contribute to the change of retail. And there's not a bright future for some of these shopping centers. And we've seen them convert into mixed-use developments. So we're seeing a lot of that. In Chesterfield County, where we're working, a couple developments that have gone that route, and many other places in the country have recognized that some of these shopping malls can be utilized for housing. So that could be a piece of the puzzle. That could be adding to the need for housing and also providing an environment where mixed use, walkability, close proximity to services and shops and restaurants those could be achieved in a single kind of redevelopment pattern. So with that, I will now talk about the 4 themes in which we think a toolbox of potential strategies can be kind of thought through in the city. And these 4 are organized in the following way. 1, redevelopment and revitalization, kind of a larger thing. 2nd is a policy and planning. 3rd, a theme of affordability and accessibility. 4th, partnership and collaboration. So we lumped them together in a series of potential toolboxes. So we softened the language quite a bit, that you're not committing to anything at this point, but this is putting up our ideas for the city to consider as you evaluate what to do going forward in terms of housing policy. So number 1, redevelopment revitalization. First one is to investigate the feasibility of creating a municipal land bank to recirculate some of the vacant, dilapidated housing or properties back into proper use. So this is a mechanism which you're holding these parcels for proper redevelopment and ideas. So our recommendation is to simply start investigating whether this could be done or not. There's some other examples in the Commonwealth and other places that have good land bank operations. Number 2, in terms of development, is to continue to envision the downtown where we are currently as a vibrant, walkable, mixed-use neighborhood. So we think this is severely underutilized, and there's a small sliver of the waterfront that can be utilized. There's many surface parking lots that could be redeveloped. Many things that could happen. It's one of the kind of interesting places to us looking in at what used to be here before as well. So tying the past and the future and walkability, grid system, all of that could be done here. So our recommendation is for you to continue that work. 3rd toolbox item is to leverage the resources of the city's economic development authority and other authority to acquire, actually, shopping centers. So we're proposing perhaps a notion of having an active role in not just suggesting a plan but actually acquiring some of these properties, holding them, perhaps rezoning them for redevelopment for the developer to come in and kind of implement your vision. So there's some examples that we put forth in the report that talks about some of these ideas for redevelopment. So the other one is the last one in this toolbox, first theme, is to encourage the development of compact, custom narrow homes on these 25-foot lots. Very tricky, but we think that great minds have some good ideas that could be put forth in redeveloping these. And the way that, I mean, I'll get to it later, but the household sizes are getting smaller. People don't want a whopper of a backyard. They actually want a manageable, right-sized home. And so some of these lots could be interesting in the way that the demographics are trending. So our recommendation is merely to kind of keep your eye on that and work with design professionals to kind of pull that off. Second bucket of themes is policy and planning. So a macro policy framework, we would recommend that you continue with the promotion of higher density development patterns that will yield the greatest fiscal benefit per acre. So when you look at 10 acres, and you can build either 10 homes on 1 acre lots, or you can build 100 units. I'm exaggerating here. So I think thinking it in terms of fiscal benefit, fiscal impact, would be something prudent for you because you're running out of land here that's greenfields to develop. So maximizing your yield per acre might be a good way for you to look at that. And also, it's a way that the society has been changing toward both the older retiring generation that don't want to drive everywhere and the younger generation that want a more mixed-use environment. I think this pattern, this framework actually would lend itself for Newport News to kind of keep up with the region because you can no longer keep building just single-family, low-density residential. You're running out of land. And also, not only that, the market has been shifting more and more towards some of this higher density development. So we think constructing homes, what do we mean by that? 1,500 to 1,800 square foot. Now, in 1950s, if you build those will be actually on the bigger end. But lately, homes are getting much, much bigger, more than 2,000, sometimes 3,000 square foot. But that's because we think that builders can make their return only on those homes. If they build them any smaller, the economics don't work for them. But if there could be a public-private partnership in that, in terms of density bonuses perhaps, and other mechanisms that the planning staff could put forth as ideas, that perhaps delivering some of these smaller homes, more modest, more right-sized, we think, homes, could be more of a policy that the city could promote. Having said that, next bullet says, pursue housing production of all types. You are short across the board. Small homes, big homes, apartments, single family, townhomes, you're short on everything. In fact, that's true of almost every community in America. So you are really short, and you need to build, and this will be a sobering number, to meet sufficient demand by 2050, you need to be producing 700 units per year. And that's far, far less than what you've been building lately. And again, you're not alone in that. So production has slowed everywhere due to the economy, the interest rate, the macroeconomic issues. But certain communities are better equipped, better positioned to kind of keep up or kind of reach their demand. So be more of a pro-build, pro-housing kind of a community is the policy framework that we would like to recommend. Third item is to support zoning and land use modifications. Again, this was not a zoning study, but we looked at zoning briefly. I mean, zoning is a whole giant piece, as you know, as a planning commission, of the puzzle here. The notion is to expand and encourage or tweak zoning and land use so that so-called missing middle housing is more represented in the community. So when it comes to ordinances or zoning and land use practices, even certain design standards, all these things that may add hindrances, some of that is necessary, obviously, to keep neighborhood character and public safety and all of that, for sure. But if there are policies that could be relaxed slightly in order to ramp up production, we think that exchange might be a good, prudent idea for the moment. And the last one, this is a big one, is to conduct a feasibility analysis for a housing trust fund. So the housing trust fund, there are many examples of that across the country. Housing trust fund would be a permanent, locally funded funding stream to support your housing initiatives. It could be affordable housing, it could be workforce housing, you can organize it a different way. So in the city of Philadelphia, in addition to a small amount of CDBG funds and other funds that the majority of that, I believe, comes from recording taxes. So every time a real estate transaction happens, a little fee gets attached, that money goes to housing trust fund and supports affordable housing. So many ways to organize it, but I think first step is to look at the feasibility analysis of such a program. Third item is to reduce barriers for first-time home buyers. This is a group that has been struggling quite a bit, especially first-time home buyers with low to moderate incomes. It's almost impossible for them to enter the housing market, not only because of the sale prices of homes, but because they don't have the down payment necessary to get into the housing. So they are getting further and further behind and so those that are in their 20s and 30s, they're deferring home purchase later and later. I think that has an effect on that generation's ability to build wealth for themselves. So many programs that we recognize the city has already implemented. There are programs out there that the public can access. I think publicity is good. It should be kind of made more available and more widely circulated that this is available. And also, it's not just the money, it's the housing education, financial literacy, all these wraparound services that are associated with first-time home buyers. Again, the city with its nonprofit partners are doing a good job, but to kind of publicize that and make more resources available for that will be our recommendation. Lastly, in affordability, is to collaborate with Virginia Housing and regional agencies and other public-private groups to preserve existing income-restricted rentals. By that, we mean the so-called 8,300 units or so. Now, we've heard some pushback saying we haven't heard anything about these income-restricted apartments going market rate. I think that's probably true for now, but there will come a time when the compliance period ends. Typically, tax credits 15 to 30-year compliance periods that need to keep it affordable. When the compliance period ends, then that property can flip to market rate, so they no longer are bound to only rent to low-income residents. We see a couple of things that happen in those circumstances. Either they become market rate to a point where low-income residents can no longer can afford those, so they get basically displaced from those apartments, or two, they remain affordable, but they are free of all compliance and oversight from the federal government that the income restricted currently have to do. They have to do inspections and all these things. So they become, a lot of them become very loosely managed private enterprises of firms, Wall Street connected firms out of, to demonize the New York metro area. A lot of these companies buy undervalued housing stock and then just run it into the ground. So it's something that you need to keep an eye on. I think it's better to keep proactive eye on these things rather than reacting to something that happens afterwards. Lastly, partnership collaboration. I'll do the second one first, the roundtable discussions. What we observe is that when we convene with the city staff, steering committee, stakeholders, et cetera, there was great value in these groups coming together to talk about housing issues. So we think convening that on a regular basis, perhaps annually, biannual, I guess that means either 6 months or every other year, depending on how you interpret that word. But convening these groups, employers, city staff, housing professionals, and talking about some of the issues, I think it's a good, worthwhile thing. I know the city has done a housing workshop, or I forget what the terminology was, just a couple weeks ago. But this will be a little different. This would be convening of stakeholders to talk about the challenges. So what are the builders saying that is in hardship? What are some opportunities that the city would say, would you look at this product, or would you look at this neighborhood? How can we develop the 25-foot lots in a way that doesn't destroy the character of the blocks, but yet produces good results, turns some of the blighted neighborhoods around? So these are conversations that could be had, and we think having a regular kind of a schedule and convening that group would be a good idea. The first one, going back up, is the notion of employers playing a role in your housing challenges. This is an employer-assisted housing program, and it has proven effective throughout the country. So larger institutions, private companies, and educational facilities, educational institutions, hospitals, and other groups have recognized that if you have jobs, but your employees say, we would love that job, we can't find housing, then I can't take that job. So they're recognizing more and more that you need to provide some stable, or actually have some stability in the housing market in order for you to continue building your housing, your economic goals. So anything from, again, down payment assistance to mortgage guarantees, repairs, grants. Employers have done a variety of things to assist their employees. And it could be perhaps a matching grant with a public foundation or even the city that could leverage that. And it really is a benefit. So we would love for some of the major institutions, shipbuilding industry, the university, or even Jefferson Labs, these larger institutions, hospitals, to have some idea. So they could be invited into the roundtable discussion that we talked about and see what they can do to help their employees and the city at large and be a good citizen. We're almost done here. So the other missing piece of the housing supply issue is the builders to build these homes. Trades have complained that they don't have enough labor. They have plenty of work, but they don't have enough workers in carpentry, electrical, plumbing, etc. So less and less young people are going into that than previous generations. So one way, a good example that in some communities have really kind of like, there's a notion of like small business incubation, but this is small business incubation for small developers, small home repair rehab, so that you don't go from just a contractor, but you begin to start learning the business and trying to turn a vacant home that's kind of sitting there and turning back into a home. So we think supporting local residential developers is a good program to add not only skills and building a business for the individuals going into it, but also it adds value to the overall housing goals as well. And lastly, due to the notion that many of the homes are old, they need a lot of repairs, upkeep. So you're talking from facades to roofs to windows to porches, even basic systems. You need to continue building on your home improvements programs so that these homes that are now 50, 60, 70, 80 years old, that are becoming larger and larger proportion of your housing supply, can be stabilized. So if one home goes in a neighborhood that's really tight, then the others may slip, but then the virtuous cycle the other way around. If one person invests in their property, then the neighbors continue. So we think having a continuing to robustly support the home repair program, home improvement program, would be a great idea, both just subsidizing the homeowner or the property owner, or incentivizing and working with the for-profit, nonprofit groups that are doing a great job to do that work, we think would be a good idea to include. So with that, this is just the next steps. What we thought. We are now at City Planning Commission presenting to you all, but we kind of introduced to City Council a preview of this. So after the city adopts, I don't know what the mechanism would be, I think it's good for the city to continue monitoring the housing market. So this is not, it should be a living document that should be continued to be refreshed. How's the market doing? The Federal Reserve has reduced the interest rate. How did that impact the builders? How did that impact the increase of sales, if anything? Thank you. So monitoring is a very important kind of tool for a municipality. And also, we think that every 5 years, a study like this should be refreshed so that you get a good idea of where you've been and where you're headed so that you can recalibrate if needed in 5 years. So with that, I'm done.
Well, thank you very much for that
Yes, thank you.
abridged version of 100 and something pages of documentation. I can only say that it's leading me to want to read more into what has actually been put in here.
Yeah.
And so with that, I'll open it up to the rest of the commissions. But my comments is that thank you very much and a well done. We just got to figure it out. But I had initially, my question was, why do we want to keep up with everyone else around us? But as you went on to explain, I better understand now why there's a need. It's just, how do we get there?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that is when the state, we use the population forecast from the University of Virginia. They do the statewide forecast for every municipality. There's a notion, and when we do this analysis, that question, should we grow? Do we want to grow? Et cetera. But I think the pattern is usually true when communities start shrinking population, then they start to lose their economic, prowess. Jobs start leaving. All these things tend to happen, and there's less rooftops to support retail and other services, so those begin to erode. So I don't think you want to be in a position where you're drastically kind of not keeping pace with the regional growth, because it's growing somewhere, and they're taking other economics, their wallets with them wherever they go, they end up.
Does this take in consideration the projects that we have in place now, like our overlay district that we have, and the major construction that we have on the East End now. Is that part of this study, or is this just prior to in a proposed?
Yes, we took into effect the different recently completed housing development, as well as the Choice Neighborhoods project and others that are, currently being implemented.
Yeah, I had a question. When
Yes.
we had a 3% increase in population, but we had net negative migration.
Yeah.
Are you able to accomplish both? Is that just through birth rates? How do both of those occur simultaneously?
Yeah, it is a little bit of an apples and oranges data set. So the 3% is from the U.S. Census Bureau, which has a kind of what they publish in American Community Survey, 5-year thing. It's a sample data, so it's a lagging indicator. And the migration pattern is by families, and that's an IRS tax return based of where you file this year and where you file next year. That's how we track the migration most closely. So it's one thing that's true is that the population is growing, but then the number of households is growing even more because our households are getting smaller. More and more people are retired and empty nesters, and more young people are delaying starting a family due to many societal reasons, and some of which could be lack of available housing for them to settle into. So therefore, you have more and more families, probably, I forget the number, but more and more Americans now without children than with children than ever before. That's why you need more housing, even though you're not even communities where they're not growing, they still need to build more housing because there's more people
Because your
dividing
population's
into-
aging.
Yeah,
Right, yeah.
for sure.
I have a couple comments.
Yes.
This is very comprehensive. I think this table 12, the comparison of income differences between migrating households,
What page is
is
that?
21 is probably your most telling chart. That's my personal opinion. Then the other thing is this 6,000 residents by 2050. Do we know the age group?
Yeah, yes. That's in the population forecast section. Table 14 should give you a breakdown. That's the total 6,044 between 2020 and 2050.
Okay.
And then, as you can see, you have a
Okay.
growing population that are over
Page
65
24.
plus.
So then the other thing, and I've said this in our meetings, so this is, you're not going to hear this to be new, but, when people pick housing, affordability is just one of the reasons they pick. And now because of the internet, they can get on the internet and they can search every single thing they want to know about the city and about the neighbors and about the neighboring counties and about the school system and about the crime and about, how much can my kid walk to work? Walk to school, or how much, whatever it is. What stores do they have? So I think, the housing study like this is one piece, but I think it's a much broader, issue that all cities are faced
Absolutely.
with.
Yeah.
And it's not just, do we have any housing stock, but it's a much broader.
Yeah.
Because when people make decisions, they're not making them any longer just driving around and finding a house that's close to their office.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think this is why the approach that the city is taking, that this fits into the comprehensive planning report, is a great way to kind of frame it. That this in and of itself in isolation cannot possibly look at everything. Every time you go to Zillow or Redfin, all these data statistics,
All
that's
this
what people
data,
look
yeah.
at, and
Yep,
you
yep.
can't. That's
And we have the internet, we can search anything we want. So, the other thing is, did you find out anything about the shipyard the shipyard's our largest employer, but any of the largest employers, how many people are migrating in and out and are not living here?
Yes. We were able to isolate
And the
some of
age
that.
group.
I don't think we put that into the report. I forget whether we did or
Right.
not. But the majority, I would just off the top of my head. Did I do that? Yeah. So majority of shipyard
Yes.
employees do not live here.
Right.
They
And the
commute in
age
and out.
group. So we're not capturing an age group
Yeah.
that would live here for the next 25 or 30 years.
Yeah. Again, those shipyard employees, they're looking for the same thing that we just talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a place where our children could do X, Y, or is it a place where there's options for dining and retail services, quality of life
a
issues?
chicken
Those
and
things
egg
are,
kind of thing.
they make trade-offs in terms of where they live and where they work. So, and the other thing we should mention is that more and more, since 2021, as we all know, more and more people are working from home than ever before. So where they live is more important than perhaps where they work, because they have the option of working at home these
That
days
may
more
change.
more than before. Therefore, all these things that we're talking about, quality of life issues, have a lot even higher stake in terms of their locational housing location, we think, than before. So,
And then
then-
I just have two more quick questions. Sorry, because this is fascinating. The land bank. You said there's examples across the country. Can you give us examples? 'Cause
yeah,
this is a new concept.
does Chesapeake? I forget. There's some local examples. Chesapeake
Chesapeake?
does have one. In cities that have experienced a lot of, disinvestment. To be frank, Detroit, Cleveland, Cuyahoga County.
Detroit's a good example.
A lot of those have land banks, and they have used those
Yep,
to
I knew
hold
Detroit
the
did.
properties for redevelopment. So.
Yeah, Detroit's, yeah. And then the last one is this trust fund fee, this housing trust fund fee. How exactly does that work?
Well, again, that is a broad study that should be looked into. We did not do that. We actually just kind of mentioned that because we heard it through some feedback and stakeholders and interviews, et cetera, that this could be one of the ways in which some of this could be a part of the solution. But in my local example in Philadelphia, so every time you sell a house, you go record that at the pathonetary office, and they tack on, I believe, like a pretty modest $15 or $20 or something like that. So every real estate transaction has a recording fee that gets directly funded into the housing trust fund. So that adds up because of volume, because real estate is going crazy. It's a related kind of a fee that it has a kind of recurring, permanent ability to fund some housing initiatives that way. So that's one example. I believe other communities have done different things, but it might be depending on your ability within the Commonwealth and what you are allowed to do or not to do.
Yeah.
So it has a lot
We're
of
different animal.
yeah. A lot needs to be studied in order to kind of have a kind of some feasibility analysis.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I have just a comment and then a question. First one is it made a lot of sense to me. Like it was kind of an eye opener when you said that this has to be like a regional thing, because otherwise Newport News is, if we only build affordable housing, then we're taking on all of that for the whole region. So that made a lot of sense. The other thing I wanted to ask, if you could explain it for me in as layman's terms as you can. How did you account for the military that is renting housing in the area but isn't necessarily filing their taxes here because they claim residency somewhere else? Like, how did that?
Yeah, we
factor
were
in?
not able to quantify exactly. We have an
Okay.
idea of how many people are associated with that community based on interviews and based on what Regina and others have told us, but we don't have an exact idea where they live, et cetera. We have some vague impressions.
Yeah, 'cause
Right, but except that they are actually occupying dwellings in the
They
city.
may not. They may not.
No, but that's who I'm asking about.
you're
It's-
asking
yeah,
about
I'm asking about the ones that do. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we didn't go deep into that, but we know that that's a big component of the housing market, of accommodating those folks. Some of that is based on the kind of the subsidy that they get, and they're finding the same trouble in terms of finding affordable housing, attainable housing. So I understand they're the same as Shipyard and other employees. They drive in, drive out, wherever they can find housing for the current time being. But so nothing quantifiable is in there.
Just because
Yeah.
they would be occupying dwellings in the city, but other than property taxes, if they bought it, but if they're
Yeah,
know,
we would not be
they wouldn't
able to
be
have an
filing their
exact number
state
for that.
taxes here
Yeah,
or whatever.
correct.
Is this public?
It is.
Today.
But, and I had the similar question that Tim just brought to you. Is that something that we should make a notion or a note in our report that does not include our military or our military transients? Because just say the area that you live no closer to the military locations, you will see a large transit in my neighborhood. And it's April 1st of the year, houses become available, houses are taken, so it goes back and forth. So, and I know they're military, so it does have a direct effect on the
Yeah,
amount
for sure. To my knowledge, I don't think there's a recording system that they would publish to the public that our military community live in this address. So unless we have that, we don't know exactly for sure if they are or not,
Right.
and how many there would be. We just know by certain kind of impressions of where, based on interviews. So it's an anecdotal kind of a thought.
But it does make Newport News unique to Newport News because
It makes the housing challenge more difficult
Correct.
because of this influx. So the more the government spends money on military
Right.
infrastructure,
It's a regional. It's
yeah,
regional.
it's regional for sure. Yeah, Norfolk and all the other Virginia Beach for
yeah,
sure.
but yeah. Thank you so very, very much. Any other questions, anyone? Yes.
Sir, very much appreciate the, as said, very comprehensive study. Just two quick things. You made a suggestion that there was a demand for 700 single-family units between now or on forecast at a year, or roughly about 5,000 between now and 2050. Did you guys have any? Did you guys review any of the current projects that are in planning? I'll give two examples. The development of Enview in the Denby portion of our community, or the development of Hilton Commons, which will, I guess, separately bring 500 to 800 plus units to the market. Was that discussed in any of?
Yeah,
your-
I mean, we discussed projects, potential projects that are in the pipeline or have been completed or recently under construction. But we're looking at a larger trend of how, if that could be sustained. So I think that we concentrated on that, whether the policy framework or zoning and other things are setting up to do those kind of projects year after year, basically. So yes, we factored that in. So we think based on our building permit analysis, that it was, trending at a, kind of a significantly below. So you were up and down for a little bit, but you were producing as little as 106 building permits in 2021. And that spiked up because of the more recent developments that you're talking about. This is in page 77. But to sustain that for 25 years would take some kind of collective effort to make sure that that production goes up and stays up. And that, again, it's not one types of housing. It's from multifamily to cottage homes for seniors to perhaps apartment complexes. So, you need a little bit of a lot of everything is the point.
Now,
It's interesting because those two land masses might be the two main land masses still left in the city.
Right.
I know that you obviously hit on some of the shopping centers that are blighted, unused, or unoccupied, or have low vacancies. There's some potential creative reuse with those, but in terms of raw land, those might be the last two large parcels left.
Correct. Yeah. So I think this point on, a few years down the line, if not already here, you're really talking about reinvestment, redevelopment as your way to keep pace with the
Which is
production.
typical of an urban.
Yeah.
I mean, we're urban, so that's all we have.
yeah, and then you're landlocked. You can't go but so far. This is what you have to work with.
Yeah, but I do believe there's some excess underutilized properties, like you're saying, especially the surface parking lots. Anytime you see a surface parking lot, there's an opportunity to build something more kind of dynamic than that. So that's what we noticed, especially around here.
Right.
And more of an admin question, but this the PowerPoint presentation, is that going to be available online or shareable?
We can share it.
Okay. It's a great Cliff Notes.
Any other questions?
No, thank you. That was very informative.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Mr.
All right,
Kwon.
thank you.
Great presentation. Thank you so very much. Okay, with that, we have, next on our agenda, we have the Executive Secretary's report.
Good afternoon.
Hello, Sheila.
And just to follow up on that report, the city will be doing a strategic housing plan to follow up on the data that's in here that will outline policies and how we move forward with the information.
When you do that plan, that strategic discussion, the strategic planning, is it going to be with the same group that was brought together that?
I
fed
don't
into the-
know. This is city management
Okay,
will be working on that.
roger that.
Yeah. Okay, City Council on November the 26th approved the conditional use permit for the indoor skate park. And on December 18th, you all will have two special exceptions, one for a lot less than 15 feet of frontage at 1124 25th Street, and one for the expansion of a nonconforming use, Winners Circle Mazda at 12602 Jefferson Avenue. That's all I have, other than the fact that Katie told me today that this would be her last meeting,
Our last meeting?
so,
Where you
yes.
It's true.
Oh, thank you, Ms. McAllister. Any
you.
questions for Ms. McAllister? I'm sorry to hear Katie. Next, we have committee reports. Any committee reports? Nothing? Unfinished business. New business.
I just have, can I make a comment?
You can
'Cause
make a comment,
since
Katie.
Sheila opened the door.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was waiting for you. That's why I stopped. That's why I stopped my
I will not be here in the December 18th meeting, so this is my last meeting. I think it's been 8 years, 8 glorious years.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to say that it's really been an honor and it's a privilege to serve on this commission. I never took it lightly. I always took it very seriously, and I hope everybody continues with that. And I also wanted to thank City Council for the appointment. I don't know if they get thanked very often, but when I was asked, I was kind of surprised, and I was really touched because it's right in my sort of wheelhouse. And then lastly, I wanted to thank the staff. I've gotten to know some more, some better this time. But, I'll miss seeing Sheila and Flora, Saul, and Nyoka and Angela. Angela and I go way back, so. But I have enjoyed every minute, so thank you.
Thank you so very much, too. Wow.
So continue the good fight.
Any other new business? With that being,
Are we getting reappointed, me and Tim?
I don't know.
this comes from City Council.
That comes from City Council?
All our lovely positions and seatings are from City Council.
Mayor at 20?
No.
So, stop that. Let me adjourn this meeting. With all that being said,
Right flank.
and if there's no further new business, I'd like to declare this meeting adjourned.